But welcome. My name is Evan from Kensington Wine Market. With us and a little bit under the weather with a cold is Harmony, but she's going to try and taste along with us. Uh, we are going to start on our blended by bourbon tasting. So hopefully you guys have your drams poured and ready to go, starting from number 1 all the way up to number 8. The way we do this is we will be running through everything blind for the first time. So keep some in your glass as we are going through, because we will revisit the lineup and go through it for a round true after the lightning round that we start with, and see what is behind that sticker. There should be 2 stickers on each label. You can pull the first one back and reveal what it is, but don't try and spoil it for yourselves. We'll try and do blind the first round. So we are starting right off with whiskey number 1 for the night.
All right.
Ooh. Kevin's saying one of the links to the in the email was wrong. Uh-oh. Well, I must have messed up something like that. Hopefully people are able to get the right one, but we'll see.
Yeah, I do know that the link on the label on your tasting kit was correct. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Hopefully I got the other stuff right, but we'll
Yeah.
see. Oh, the
Yeah.
join the Zoom tasting here. Okay. Well, hopefully people can catch on to that and use the other one. Um, so Harmony, I know you're gonna have trouble getting some off this. It does smell like bourbon to me.
It does have some remnants of bourbon. Yes.
Mhm.
It's got a nice sweetness to it and that I can
Yeah,
detect.
lots of corn notes right now. A little bit grassy. Touch of peaches,
Yeah.
not heavy fruit notes, more on the grassiness for me right now. Definitely get the big corn notes on there as well.
Getting like honey on here for me.
Ooh, that's a good call. Maybe your nose is doing all right.
All right, so far.
Mhm. Yeah, good note with the honey. Uh, touch of brown sugar, which would be typical, but not like big into molasses or anything territory like that. Definitely toasty though, where you're getting the virgin oak cask coming through from the bourbon there too.
Yeah, and it smells like just like rich, kind of like creamy even.
Hmm. Yeah, let's see how it is on the palate, see if that creaminess translates on this one. Hmm. So if this is your first sip of whiskey for the night, might be a little bit hot, a little bit harsh first time through. Let it roll around that your palate and get your palate acclimated to everything. Second sip should be smoother and sweeter in style, especially with bourbon. But you might get a little bit more note-wise off it the second time through as well. But definitely keep some in your glass for that second round that we'll be going through.
Yeah, nice spices on this, not
Mm,
overly oaked as some bourbons
yeah,
can be, but very nice freshness. Still the grassiness is there.
yeah, the grassiness for sure. A little bit of spice does remind me a little bit of like Lynchburg lemonade, where you're getting the iced tea notes in there as well, and the tea-like notes and the hint of citrus in there too.
Hmm.
Maybe a touch of Arnold Palmer as well. Not heavy on the peaches, but there's something hinting at peach in the background.
Yeah, there's some nice fruits in there, almost buttery.
Hmm. Yeah, buttery is a good note. Still get that spice. Ooh, kelp. Colton says that's cool. Um, Spice is there, but it's not overwhelming. It just kind of tingles up front and then fades into the background. Like salty bark, Colton says. I like that. It does almost have like a little bit of a salty or saltwater taffy note to it along with that, especially on the finish where I'm getting just a touch of saltiness to it.
Yeah, it's like very citrus for me, this
Mhm.
particular
Uh,
whiskey.
Going back to nose it, and you get a lot more of the grain and those toasted grains coming through now. A little bit of milk chocolate in there as well. Almost
Mhm.
getting into like cereal wise into puffed wheat cereal.
Yeah. Cam in the chat says cinnamon candies.
Nice. Yeah, that
Yeah.
does have a bit of that cinnamon and sugar note to it. Mm.
I
Good
get
starter.
like
It's definitely
jammy,
mhm,
kind of jammy, like your apricot peach jam of some sort.
good call.
Yeah. It's quite tasty.
So maybe it's because it's my first dram of the night, but it's I do remember what this one is, and I remember it like this being a bit juicier. It's a little bit dry for me right now. Um, be interesting to see if that changes as we try another couple and come back to it.
Yeah.
So for lightning round, let's try number two. So for those of you that haven't joined us for a blinded tasting or an SMWS tasting, this is what I kind of refer to as the lightning round, where it's just a quick nose and taste through and seeing what we think of it without knowing anything about the whiskey. We can probably make a safe assumption that most of this is bourbon this time around, being that that seems to be the theme of the tasting, but maybe we do every once in a while throw a curveball in there, so we'll see what we get to. Ooh, nice blueberry and cherry note right off the hop on this one for me.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I'm getting tons of spices on this.
Mhm. It even reminds me of like if you bake blueberries into pancakes.
Oh, that's not a bad thing. So a little bit of maple in there as
No,
well.
yeah, yeah, maple's a good call.
Hmm.
A little bit of grape bubblegum notes in there too.
Oh, that's a good
Warm and
one. I was
round
trying,
like you shoved a yeah. Colton says warm and round like you shoved a hot coal in your nose, and it was pleasant. It's a good note. That's going into a Scotch Malt Whiskey Society tasting note right there.
that's amazing. Yeah, I'm getting like just this
Mhm.
reminder of an old fashioned, you just like orange
Yeah.
peel and spices, and it's almost like it's that cocktail that's already made.
Mhm. Kevin says hot coal potpourri. Another good note. This it's got some like going back after sipping it. It's got some more chocolate and dark chocolate notes coming through, almost like
Definitely.
those Cadbury fruit and nut bars.
Yeah, and you could throw in some almonds in there too.
Hmm. Yeah, almonds is a good call. Roasted almonds, I'd say.
Yeah, you might as well put it on the fire next to those hot coals, right?
Hmm. Yeah, or put them up your nose like the hot coal, one or the other.
Yeah, the taste is nice. It's dry, um,
Mm.
but it's got that chocolate and a cocoa powder kind of going on for me.
It's it hits the palate a different way than the first one, where the first one seems to sort of spread out a bit. This isn't like
Mm.
sharp by any means, but it tends to evaporate on the palate a bit more and is a little bit more cooling at the finish as well because of it for me.
Yeah, kind of direct. It just for me, it was like straight down the middle of my
Hmm.
palate, with
Yeah.
like you said, that drying effect. Yeah, it's very cool, very yummy, familiar.
Ooh. If you didn't go back and nose the first one, that nosing and tasting number two has really changed number one a lot for me.
Oh yeah, man, we still have six more to go.
I know.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is number one's so toasty now after number two. Well, let's
Kevin
try
says,
number three.
yeah, going back to number one, I get more cinnamon hearts. Cool.
Cinnamon Hearts, good call.
Number three.
Big, big gear shift on number three again, nose wise.
Oh wow, heavier on the dark fruits and
Big time. Bit heavier on the citrus even too, like some really sort of sweet citrus notes on there. Lots of tea-like notes in there as well.
hmm we
Like even
still get
reminding me
tons
of
of
your
those like yeah, like herbal insane.
Yeah.
But you still get those like vanillas and brown sugar and caramel
Yep.
notes that you anticipate. But more cinnamon. I don't know if it's because it's just been said so many times, but I'm getting a lot
Yeah.
of cinnamon.
The first thing I got off it was a combination of apples and cinnamon
Very
uh
cool.
in there. Yeah. But like kind of your standard red rose tea meets peppermint tea right now on the nose too.
Oh, cool.
Aaron and Brandon say banana bread right now. That is a good call.
Oh, very nice.
So is this for people is it that are want to chime in, is this a banana bread where it's just a banana bread, or is this one where it's got the chopped up walnuts in it or something else? I
Yeah.
think it's got a bit of walnuts in there.
Oh, Kevin says maybe more for him, more zucchini bread than banana bread.
Oh.
I like it. Yeah, red rose is a good one for me. I've been drinking a lot of tea the last few days.
That's right. Maybe a touch of
Mm,
ginger in there as well.
yeah.
Aaron and Brandon are fine with the banana bread or zucchini bread as long as there's no raisins. I am right there with you. Uh, I like raisins, but I tend to prefer them on their own and not in baking.
Mhm. Oh, the palate is warm and spicy.
Yeah,
More of those like tea tannins that we got on the nose comes through nice on the palate, but it's definitely a higher uh, alcohol than the second one because I'm just
totally.
salivating after sipping that.
Yeah, agreed. This is I thought I knew what number two was or recalled what number two was, but now after trying this, I'm not so sure. This is
Mm,
this is big. Like it's got some drying tannin to it and some earthy spices along there, but it's got this nice sweet touch that sticks around too.
yeah, it's like a nice like rye bread. Mm,
Yeah. Colton says almost like a dry wine turned scotch. That is a cool note. It does have some wine-like tendencies to it. Big blackberry and blackberry jam notes right now on the nose for me. Mm.
man, wish my nose was working better. And my
Going
palate.
back to the yeah, and your palate. Going
Yeah.
back to two now, it's big time cherry notes all of a sudden jumping out.
I
Like a
get
cherry
that.
cobbler, or even the cherry filling, the red filling on in a Danish. Number one is caramel now, Colton says. I agree on the caramel. It also has a little like sponge toffee in there, but and very toasty still and grain driven, but going into some like sweeter like roasted root vegetable notes in there too, like going into like beet chips, I would say on number one as well.
The palette
Uh,
on number three has this like drying effect that reminds me of Pez candies, with this
mhm.
chalkiness, um, or even like rockets.
Yeah,
Yeah,
nice. Colton and I are simpatico on beet chips. It sounds like.
beet chips. Oh,
Hmm.
it's not a
That was
bad
back
note.
on number one. Yeah.
Very cool.
Okay, on
Yummy.
to number four. Well, this is earthier and maybe a bit more like cracked pepper notes on the nose versus the first three. So Kevin says, as he typed beet chips, I was smelling number four. Feel like it is even more vegetal and winey. It does have that sort of root vegetable note coming through with that earthiness right now. Still a nice amount of like black pepper, cracked pepper for me.
And for me, it
Could be
was
going on the
feeling
wine
like
route.
very doughy for me.
Mhm.
initially.
Well, doughy note wise, it even has like just a touch of yeastiness
Yeah,
coming in, like
yeah, like,
rising dough there.
and yeah, that's it. It's not like a baked bread. It's like a like you
Yeah.
said, a rising dough.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeast. That's a good call.
Yeah, that floral and spice and slightly sort of like fermented
Yeah, yeah,
combination.
exactly.
Maybe that's what Kevin's seeing as whiny, which would make sense too. Well, hits the tongue up front with the sweetness, where the last two are more down the middle. Big cherry note on
Oh,
there, but some drying notes on the side too.
oh, big time. Whew.
Well, now I'm confused at the order. I cannot remember which one or which is which. It's amazing how putting things in a lineup changes how they seem when you just try them on their own.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, so it's got some nice vanilla oak to it that
Hmm.
just feels like classic bourbon to me.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that yeastiness is still coming through on the nose with big cherry notes. It almost reminds me of the first sour beer I ever had, where I actually like clicked into what it was. Was at a tasting, and it was the Duchess de Bourgogne, and it's like a cherry chocolate, like very hyper rich sour beer. Like the sourness comes in after all the fruit and the decadence of it, and the
Mm.
nose reminds me a bit of Duchess de Bourgogne on this one.
Oh, cool. I've not had that beer.
Well, it's a
Stock,
good beer.
I stock it all the time.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it even reminds me a bit into like it's like dark chocolate and a bit of Black Forest cake right now on the palate.
Yeah.
That's a tasty one.
Yeah, that's good. I think I know what this is. Just because I think I've had it recently.
Hmm.
And not the lineup because I didn't pour this, so I wasn't sneaking samples of things.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. But just just the way the heat feels uh was
Yeah.
what to remember it. But also just not having not been drinking for the last few days and being sick, everything
Yeah.
feels more intense than it
Yeah.
probably is.
I think that one's cast strength if I remember correctly. So intense should be its MO. We'll see though.
Mm,
Just going back and nosing three now. Yeah, that blackberry jam note is stuck around on that one for me.
yeah, blackberries for sure.
Number two. It's so candied and cherry forward right now.
Yeah, candy's a good note.
Mhm.
Compared to the third one, it's just heavier and denser, and then the number two's like
Totally.
all like light and playful,
Hmm.
and then three, and then going back to one, same thing,
Yeah.
just
Big
brighter.
time grain. It's back to that grassy and maybe even like a hay note in there.
Uh, one and four have similarities on the nose for me.
Agreed. And I would say two and three have similarities too, like
Yeah,
together.
yeah,
Yeah, right now one is into like those Melba toast crackers.
I loved those when I was younger.
Yeah. Okay, let's go on to number five. Oh, very muted on the nose versus the last ones. Feel like I have to work a bit more to get something off it.
Yeah,
Toasty, a little bit of brown sugar in there. Cool. Colton saying this might be a bit of an odd opinion, but number five has a stinkiness that I would would be likened to old fruit and diesel exhaust.
Nice.
Yeah. I don't think they allow those as additives in bourbon, but maybe this isn't a bourbon.
Maybe.
It does have that, like when you work in the liquor store or in a liquor store or around boxes, every now and then you'll get the super dirty box that is just like caked in diesel dust. And it has that note to it almost. A little bit musty, Kevin says. A little bit of like graphite and pencil shavings along with that.
Oh,
Still muted on the fruit notes for me, like that, not as much jumping off, maybe a touch of cinnamon. Hint of cherries, but not heavy right now.
getting like granola.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Wow,
Good
the
palate.
palette is so different.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe this one
Colton,
will open up a bit more.
I agree with you. This is very different. I haven't added water to any of these yet, but
Yeah.
maybe we won't need to. Oh, tons of ginger and cinnamon on this for me.
Ginger and cinnamon. Yeah, good call
Yeah,
combination wise. Just a touch cooling on the finish, like a bit of mint and menthol in there.
yeah, yeah. Mint is good.
Feels like we've definitely gone up in strength again.
Oh, definitely. I like there's a fruit note still in there. Like after all the spices come in, it
Yeah.
takes a jump into this like brighter something
Yeah,
sweet.
maybe like apple turnover meets peach cobbler right now on the finish. Touch of cinnamon again with those apples. Maybe a touch of
Mhm.
pear even as well, like going into those dried pears that we get on the cutting
Oh,
board
I was gonna say
from
the
Peasant
peasant
Cheese every now and
pears.
then. Yeah, those are
Yeah,
fantastic.
definitely pears.
Yeah. Nose is going into a bit more cherries and cinnamon right now on the for me. Still heavy on the grain.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm,
This definitely is a higher alcohol than the rest of the ones we've had
for
today,
sure.
or at least it feels that way.
Yeah, that one definitely seems tight versus the rest of the lineup so far. It'll be interesting to see if that changes. I might add water to it the next time around, a couple drops, just see what happens too.
Me too. I'm just gonna agitate my glass and hope that it
Good call.
just uh opens up. Yeah, that's really good though. I really like that.
Yeah. Well, when you agitate it, it goes into like full on like cinnamon toast notes on the nose for me.
Yeah, it becomes way more spicy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it still has that like rye presence to it,
Hmm.
which I'm a fan
Yeah,
of.
there's got to be some rye in there for
Yeah.
sure.
Um, Colton in the chat says add water. Is that a normal
Yeah,
thing?
I
Uh,
couldn't tell if Colton was being sarcastic, which would be totally fair. A lot of people do feel that way. Um, if that was an actual question, Colton, though, yeah,
yeah.
you can definitely add water in tastings like this. No sarcasm. Okay, sorry for putting you on the spot there, Colton. Um, so yeah, in tastings like this, I always suggest, and most people suggest, try it neat first, even if it's at cast strength. Have a dropper nearby though, or if you have children like I do, I don't have it anymore, but I used to use one of those Tylenol squeezer pet things where it made all my whiskey taste a little bit like grape flavor Tylenol, which I was fine with. But yeah, I have upgraded to a pipette since then.
Oh, right on. Yeah. I
Yeah,
still have my like glacial water from Banff. Um,
nice.
from I think from like every Banff I've gone to, like at every table you sit down and you have your own water, and I just hoard them all.
Yeah,
Um,
was that a park distillery thing or was that just a Banff
yeah,
thing?
yeah, this that
Yeah,
says park on the
I think
side.
I might have one aging away back there somewhere.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure
Still,
it just
yeah,
gets better with time. Yeah,
that's
yeah,
right.
the glacial water, that's
That's right.
the note. Aged water essentially is what that
Yep.
is.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah,
Um,
I do add water from time to time. I think it
mhm,
helps, especially if I'm finding that I'm not finding notes in the whiskey. It could be because the alcohol is so high that it's
totally.
just muting everything. So water can help. Um, I'm not
Yeah, a
sure
lot of the
with
time
having a cold if
it'll
water's gonna help.
yeah. Yeah, it'll kind of agitate the whiskey if you add just a few drops to it, and you definitely want to be sparing, Colton, if you do want to go that route, because
Yeah.
once it's in there, it's hard to take away. But so you add a drop at a time and see what you think if it's too big or too bold or too alcohol forward for you. But how you drink the whiskey is definitely once it's yours, you do whatever you want with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, in a nosing and a tasting environment like this, it
Mhm.
doesn't hurt to kind of explore. I mean, when
See
you're
what happens. Yeah.
drinking a whiskey at home, I mean, maybe you just don't add water because you're going to be drinking that over a longer period of time, and
Yeah.
it's going to develop on its own, and it is what it is. But when you want to
Yeah.
critique something, bringing that alcohol down can be part of the fun in that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Harmony brings up a good point. Drinking versus tasting are two very different things. And at the end of the day, we do these tastings so that you can find out what you want to be drinking later on.
Exactly.
So hopefully you'll
Yeah.
find some new ones that are favorites as we go along.
Yeah. Now this
Yeah, I
next
agree with
one,
Kevin. Yeah, enjoying the experimentation that goes along with water. Yeah, number 6.
it's so dark. It's the darkest in our lineup
Mhm.
so far. I have no
Yeah, there
idea
might
what
be
this
one
one is.
darker at number 8, but I can't tell. Might have to side by side, but
Yeah.
that's into like just
Well,
a really good bourbon nose.
I was noting when I was pouring them out that you do get color variations in bourbon, but it's nothing like in the
No,
Scotch
like
world,
Scotch.
where you could
Yeah.
be like pale as water and dark as Coke. But we do have some pretty dark ones in here, which
Hmm.
lead me to think that it could be one of two things. Like, A, we're looking at a heavy char. We're looking at number 4 charring,
Hmm.
um,
Yep.
which imparts more color, or we could be looking at some bourbons that are much older, and take on more color. So I get excited when I see dark whiskeys,
Hmm.
because in the bourbon world, they're not allowed to add any color like they can in
Yep.
Scotch. So
One of the
I get
best things
excited.
about bourbon, in my opinion. Yep. I
Yeah.
love that they can't add things to it, including coloring. It's just as it is, and it doesn't really need it because you got
Mhm.
that virgin oak barrel that's imparting a ton of influence, both nose, color, taste, and whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. This nose is
Colton,
very
yeah, you're right. The best thing about bourbon is that it's bourbon. I agree with you there.
agreed.
This is like the most full on like blinding it. Oh yeah, this is bourbon of the
This
lineup so far for me.
absolutely.
Kind of ticks all the boxes. Nice cherry note, still toasty. Nice cinnamon note and brown sugar in there. Big time brown sugar actually on this one.
Yeah, it's like you're making your own like butterscotch toffee at
Yeah,
home, and you're melting down all your sugar and giving
that's
a
right.
good stir.
Yeah, no, almost noses like a hot toddy in a way because of that.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Mhm.
that's a good palate. I
Oh,
think I remember what this one is.
it's quite rich.
Hmm. Yeah, very
Mm,
rich. Like just bursting with flavor up front. Great spice notes, great toastiness.
hmm
Just gotta ask my kids to quiet it down just for a second here.
Oh, he's in dad mode now. Oh, this is good. This is another one that's like high in alcohol. It just warmed myself right in my pit. I've warmed right up.
So have you gone back and nosed and through the lineup, number 6 and backwards now?
No, I haven't, but I will. Let's go back. 5.
Ooh, 5 is still pretty muted, especially versus 6.
It is, yeah.
5, 4 still
I
has
like the
that.
nose on 4.
Yeah, 4 still has that sort of rising dough note to it in a cool manner, but some really nice fruit notes in there as well. Just
Mm-hmm.
seems like mellow, like there's maybe a bit of spice there, but it's not heavy. Number 3 seems much more rye driven than 4 for sure. Even going
Yeah,
into something that I get on a lot of ryes, which is like those lime jujube notes, like
interesting.
specifically the green jujubes. I don't know why.
Oh,
Touch
that's
of like
can't be
ruby
a
red
bad
grapefruit in
thing.
there too. Nope.
Mm-hmm.
Like bad jujubes. Mm,
What's a bad jupe jupe? Like something that's
I
been
know.
soaked in bourbon?
That sounds like an improvement. Smells very
Or
weird.
like the yellow ones. I like the yellow ones.
Kevin, yeah, I kind of get where you're going on that. Like it doesn't go like farmy for me, but there's maybe a little bit of like a solventy or like glue note to it on number 3. Not totally off-putting for me though. A little bit of Sharpie marker or highlighter in there.
Hmm.
Oh, so much like chalky candy right now on number 2. Very fruity, going into like Flintstones chewables.
As I said, Pez.
Pez is probably a better note. Probably cheaper
I
than
never had
the Flintstones chewable
Flintstone
vitamins that I'm
chewables.
chewing on. Yeah. Even into like
My parents had the
the
nerve
rose
to
hip or
give us
whatever.
real vitamins.
Mhm.
Oh, rose hip.
Nice.
I said my
Like,
parents never gave us Flintstones. We had to have the real vitamins.
oh, nice.
Yeah, that's
I made
growing
the
up. They
mistake
were
of
hooked
buying
in.
the go ahead.
I was gonna say, growing up, my parents were hooked into the Amway life. So
Nice.
we had all the Amway vitamins.
I made the mistake of buying the knockoff brand chewable vitamins from Walmart, and my kids will not eat them. So I'm that's how I'm getting my kicks right now is or my vitamins and minerals.
Well, that's
Give that
funny.
to number 1. Yeah, so toasty and just toasted root vegetables and stuff like that right now on the nose for me. Roasted. Sweet potato even.
Yeah, I get the like yam, sweet potatoes, and
Yeah.
brown sugar.
It's almost like when I don't know if they still do it, but at Original Joe's, when you used to get the sweet potato fries and they'd give you that creamy dill dip to dip them in.
Yeah, they still do.
Nice.
Yeah. Sounds like you and Andrew need to have a manager meeting.
That's right. That's right. I'll suggest it. Yeah. Okay, up to number 7.
Hmm.
Yeah, Kevin does have a wicked collection behind him there.
Yeah.
This nose is like we're going into different like barrel char territory somehow versus the last one,
Hmm.
or maybe even different oak territory.
It does. It doesn't smell like your typical bourbon.
Yeah, like it's got some banana notes, but it's like if you've ever had like roasted plantains, where it's like starchy and a little bit caramelized and not quite as sweet.
Okay.
Reminds me of that. Even a little bit of like vegetable stir fry where you use those the snap peas in them or
I was
those
gonna
thin
say
pea ones.
peas.
Yeah. It's got that on the nose right now with a little bit of some sort of sauce on it. Kevin gets apples, apple pie, cooked apple filling with cinnamon. Yeah, it does have that too.
Yeah. Yeah, apples and cinnamon sticks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even just like the apple juice from concentrate, like the carton, the 1 liter cartons that you get.
It
Not full
always
on like
reminds me
fresh pressed.
of like Raisin Bran
Mm-hmm.
a little bit there. Like you get the like more on the cereal side than the raisin side, but just like
Yeah,
the smell of bran.
it totally does have that. It even follows through on the palate a bit with that, but it's got some. It's almost like you got a little bit of maple syrup in with your raisin bran.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, there's a lot of cereal grain and like bread. Um, the oak is kind of sharp on here.
Yeah,
Um,
sharp, but also somehow sweeter. Like
yeah,
where it's like very chamomile and vanilla forward, but there's something else going on in there too.
and like for me, there's something about what it does to my tongue. Again, I
Yep.
don't know what the alcohol is, but it like prickles my tongue at the front, like you
Hmm.
licked salt, but it's not
Yep.
salty, but it has that same kind of like
Yep.
aggressive uh
Like something savory on
feel.
it, maybe even.
Maybe, yeah. I wonder, hmm, and there's is it chai?
Okay. Yeah. Chai is a good note, like
There's
a sweeter chai, like honey
chai,
driven chai. Yep.
yeah, like vanilla chai or honey chai or some
Yep.
sort. You've
Milky chai for
added lots
sure.
of,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mm. Colton
interesting.
says
I can
cloves.
taste this.
Kevin says maybe hickory. Yeah.
Cool.
He thinks different wood. I'm with you
Okay.
there on the different wood, Kevin.
Yeah, there's something
It
different about
has
that.
like if you've ever had like the store-bought cinnamon rolls where they don't use cinnamon and sugar, like it's just full on like dry cinnamon powder. Like it's got that too. A little bit of a
Mm,
French toast note to it along there, along with that.
totally. Yeah.
Okay, last but not least, number 8 for our lightning round. Oh wow, very different on the nose again. There is there is something on there that totally reminds me of French onion soup. And usually it's sherry casks that give me that nose. And then usually when you're combining it with something funky like Lecheg. But I don't believe we put a Lecheg into this lineup.
No, I mean, we try to keep it within
Ah,
our own oh, I stirred it too much and spilled.
on the bourbon side of things.
Yeah, I was gonna say we try to keep it on our own continent when we do these blinded by
That's right.
bourbons. We do definitely
Uh,
play with the grains, but yeah.
Kevin, I think, nailed it. He says leek and potato soup, where I could even convince me there's a little bit of bacon in there too.
I'm not getting anything.
It's got a little bit of a beer yeast note in there as well, like something's just fermenting in the background. Maybe even some like a beer pretzel, something slightly sour in there.
Well, I think my sniffer is failing me, but the palate is nice. It doesn't drink like a bourbon. I definitely think you have some sherry casks in here.
Yeah, that's what it seems like, eh? And
Mm.
it's throwing me for a crazy loop because I think I know what this one is based on what I recall, and it is not what I was expecting.
Ditto.
But it
Um,
is that nose, I agree with Kevin. Like I just can't stop nosing it. That is wild. I really like that potato leek slash like green onion scallion thing going on that it has on the nose. Mm. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the lineup and just give them a quick nose, and then we'll work on the reveal after that. So back to number 7. Oh, so much like dusty dry spice on the nose right now on that one.
and I'm still getting like maple
Yep.
syrup cigars, like tobacco.
Full on tobacco. Like it's almost like someone smoking one in the background, like smoking either pipe smoke or cigar smoke, probably cigar smoke. Like it just has that earthy, sweet warmth to it,
Yeah,
and it's just a
yeah.
hint of smokiness.
Number 6.
A little bit of like sandalwood slash beechwood on the nose on that one too.
Yeah, it's very oak forward,
Mhm.
very woody.
Yeah. Get back to number 6. Oh man.
6 is what I was saying was very woody for me.
Yeah, it does have a lot of wood, and this combination of like just like it's probably the closest thing we have in the lineup to just nosing the inside of a barrel or the inside of a cask, where it's
Hmm.
the wood is just like still wet from what was dumped from it. A little bit of a cedar note too.
Very cool.
Number 5.
Mm. Number 5 is starting to really open up.
It's not like the most expressive on the nose, but it's just soft and nice light toastiness. Like it's not an aggressive toastiness on the nose right now.
Am I wrong that there's some saltiness to it?
I think no, I see where you're going. Like it's almost like you're smelling a little bit of like salty toffee.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, for me at least it feels like it's like salt is like in my sinuses, like it's like in
Yeah,
the air.
yeah. Yeah, it does have a bit of that like when I think about it in that light, it reminds me of Old Pulteney, where
Yeah,
you get that sort of salty and coastal but no peat note to it.
right. Interesting.
Is there a
Hmm.
Kentucky bourbon distillery that's right on the Gulf? I don't think there is.
Mm.
Beautiful note. That is like super soft but just mellow.
Hmm.
Back to number 4. Still big on that rising dough note.
Yeah, but like you said before, you just sprinkled some cinnamon on it,
Yep.
and now it's ready to bake.
Kevin was seems like you and I might be on the same page with number 5, Kevin. I was thinking Old Pulteney and you're saying Highland Scotch.
Mm.
Yeah, that dusting of cinnamon is nice.
Hmm. All right. Number 3,
Hmm. Yeah,
is this the
that
one you
that
said
green
blueberries?
jujubes. Yeah.
Green juice.
Yeah. Blueberries might have been number 1 or 2. I can't recall.
It's not
I think I might
one.
have said blackberries on this one.
Blackberries, yeah. I'm definitely feeling smelling more berry notes on this one, or
Yeah.
like even plums, black
Yeah.
plums.
Even like strawberry reduction, like like you didn't add a lot of sugar to it, but you're getting the cooked down strawberry notes.
Cooking it down, yeah.
Kevin still says bad jujubes on this one.
Stop buying bad jujubes, Kevin, and buy the real stuff.
That's right.
It's like every time I go to Costco, I buy the bad jujubes, And I just
That's
keep
right.
hoping they're the real jujubes, and I keep tricking myself because they're such a good price.
Number two right now is cotton candy meets children's Tylenol, like the flavored Tylenol not candies. Tylenol's not a candy, it's children. Um, or the Lick'em sticks that I always forget the name of.
The Fun Dips.
The Fun
Is
Dips.
that
Yep,
they're called Fun Dips? Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
I bought my nephew. My nephew every year for Christmas asks for candy, and I had spoiled my other nephew, so I just got him $50 worth of candy and
Nice.
got him some Fun Dips, and he like immediately was like, "Can I open these?" My sister was like, "Not a chance!" Like 3 packs of sugar with a sugar dipping stick at like 8:30 at night. No way.
Yeah. And you're like, go nuts, buddy. Yeah.
That's what I said. I'm like, "Yeah, take them
Not my
home.
child.
Eat it
Yeah.
on the ride home." Yeah. Number one is still like pretty,
Yeah.
like
So
peaches and
toasty.
pears.
Like
Toasty, yeah.
it's not like overly charred or anything, but it's got a lot of toasty notes in there and cereal notes. Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, now that we are back at number one, let's go through the reveal.
Wow. I mean,
Is the best way to do this. Should I do it with the slideshow or should I just pull them up on the computer? So, I think the slideshow.
I think the slide is nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's informative.
So this is as I figure out how to operate a slideshow again. It's been so long.
Kevin says, don't add
Uh
water to one, it gets lost. All the toastiness
that
goes away.
that kind of makes sense because this is the lowest ABV of the lineup too.
Hmm.
Let's see. Share screen. Okay, so number one is 43% alcohol, if I remember. This is
Mhm.
one that Harmony and I have been excited to find a lineup for a while, since I
Yeah.
think we tried it in, was it September, November, October?
I It's September at least because I'll support it at my table at the festivals.
Yeah.
I snuck it
And this
in.
is one where you knew about it before I did. I was very guilty to uh, kind of rolling my eyes when you talked about how good it was
Yeah.
because I just assumed it was another sourced whiskey from MGP or somebody. And don't get me wrong, there's really good MGP whiskey out there. It's just I heard wine cask finish and and low ABV and I was like, this is gonna be just boring. But then I
Yeah.
found out what distillery it comes from, which got me super excited because we don't see anything from this distillery in Canada beyond these bottles.
Mm.
And I tasted it. And I was like, oh man, this is like really cool stuff. And the price is actually pretty good too. So it's
Yeah.
$65. It's from Amador Whiskey Company, which is and what's called an NDP, a non-distiller bottler or producer, sorry. And they are in California. However, with this whiskey and another one that they've done, this one's finished in Chardonnay barrels of all things,
Yeah.
but still works really well. 65% corn, 20% wheat, 15% malted barley, or 15% barley, which is fairly high for barley for uh, most mash bills, but this is a Kentucky bourbon and it comes from a distillery called Willett. Willett is a distillery just outside of Bardstown, and I had a chance to visit when I went to Kentucky back in 2017. And it's a distillery. Ever since I've been there, I've been trying to get an agent to bring them on to bring them up to Canada. And multiple agents and importers tried before I even knew about the distillery. And Willett just says hard no to everybody, is not interested. So this is the first time that I'm aware of that we've seen any Willet bourbon in Canada. And it's a pretty cool bottle for 65% or $65, sorry, and
Yeah.
43% alcohol. It's just a really good, well put together bourbon. And it's a
Yeah.
weeder at that, which is kind of cool too.
It is a weeder. And they also do like a port cask finish and
Yeah.
Cabernet cask
Cabernet. Yeah.
finish. Um,
Yeah,
of the
and we've
three, the
tried.
Chardonnay was my favorite.
Yeah,
The
it's the
cab's not
Chardonnay's
bad.
knockout. Yeah.
Yeah, the cab's not bad either. And the cab I think would make like decent cocktails. For me, the port was just a little too dominating for
Hmm.
what I want my bourbon to be. Um, Nothing wrong with it, but the Chardonnay to me really stood out. They
Yeah.
also have a 10-year just
Yeah.
standard classic straight bourbon, 10-year bourbon, uh like virgin oak casks, no fancy finishes. That's available as well in our
Hmm.
market from Amador. Actually, I think the 10, I'm lying about the
Yeah.
fanciness. I think they incorporate some hops into that.
Well, no, and
If
it's not a bourbon. It's a, if I remember correctly, it's a malt whiskey.
Oh, it's a
Um,
malt with hops.
it's from Charbet Distillery in California, and they
Interesting.
do a hopped malt whiskey if I remember there. Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
could be wrong on the malt, but yeah, you're right on the hops.
I remember looking at their website and they were talking about how they source bourbon from like at least 5 or 6, if not more, different distilleries. And
Yep.
so they're kind of, I've seen it on a few labels now where they're like bourbon finishers, um, and kind of just priding themselves in doing that finishing work, not necessarily um trying to hide that they're not making it.
Hmm.
I know some distilleries just don't want you to know that they're sourcing their
Yeah.
bourbon, but they're very open about where they're buying their products from, and
Yeah,
the
I
Chardonnay
was able
for
to find
me
it
is
right on the website for this one, which was really cool. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I appreciate that. Um,
Hmm. Yeah, Kevin
I
says
mean, I think they do a
Okanagan
good job
Spirits
with
does a hopped
this.
whiskey too. Sorry, go ahead, Harmony.
Oh, cool. Well, I was gonna say it's a finished in a Chardonnay cask, which
Yeah.
as many finished bourbons do, it strikes a chord with me that it's not bourbon
Mhm.
if you're
Yep.
adding flavor, like a finish. Um, because it's like it's not in the rules. It's not in the rules that you can't finish a bourbon, but it is in the
Yep.
rules that you can't add flavor. So I
Yep.
I kind of I feel a way when I see something finished in a wine cask or even a tequila cask, or
Hmm.
or something that's not virgin oak, but when it tastes this good, you can't hate it.
That's right. Yeah, and
Just
Kevin agrees
it's
with
just a
you. He
pretty
says that you can't call it a bourbon if it's finished. Yeah, and
well, you
it's actually
can
surprising,
actually.
Kevin, that the TTB, which checks all labels and gives the clearance for labels in the US, has not cracked back on that because there are so many different bourbon products like this where it's still bourbon on the for what it's called. So
But I wonder if I didn't get a chance to get into it in Banff when I was doing my Leopold's tasting. I really wanted to, but I didn't want to distract because the
hmm,
classes are only 60 minutes.
yep,
Um, but I wonder if there are standards that are different maybe than like Canada, where our wine casks can be like soaking wet and still have wine in it, and we pour our whiskey in and just don't even talk about it. But maybe they have to be emptied out and have a certain, I don't know how they rate these things, like,
hmm,
but maybe they cannot contain any liquid before being
yep,
filled with bourbon. And then it's not the same as adding a secondary
yep,
product.
could be.
Yeah. I mean, we
Yeah, I wonder
won't
if they
talk
have to.
about
Maybe they have to centrifuge the whole thing, take out the devil's
yeah,
cut too.
but
Yeah, Kevin
yeah,
says bottled and bond rules might have such rules regarding casks, and I think they actually do.
I
I
think
think
they
you're
do.
right on that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, number two. And I can't believe I didn't pick up on what this is the first time through. Because now that I see the bottle, it's like Oh, of course it is. I should have known this.
That's okay. That's kind of the fun about when we
It is.
plan these things months in advance and then we don't remember what we do.
That's right.
It makes
So
it live
I'm
for
sure a lot
everyone.
of you there's probably a few people that could blind this easily. This is the probably the one bottle in the lineup where pretty much everybody has probably tasted it. This is Eagle Rare, 10-year-old. So from Buffalo Trace Distillery. Um, we tend to have this annual thing where we put an Eagle Rare into a lineup sometime in a blinded tasting. I think I've done it for 3 years in a row, maybe 4 years now. Just because it tends to be a bottle that I always enjoy. And it's fun to go back and revisit because we don't see a lot of them anymore, which is really sad.
Yeah.
So high corn, low rye mash bill from Buffalo Trace Distillery. Currently sold out. We do get bottles of this once in a blue moon.
Hmm.
We don't even take pre-orders now. We just put them on the shelf one at a time and let customers sort of stumble across it just because we'd never get through the pre-orders if we opened up that list again.
Yeah. Yeah. It's unfortunate. What I do think
So I think we may have lost you there, Harmony.
different.
Um, you might have to repeat what you said there. You kind of cut off there.
Did I? Sorry, it looks like I'm having internet failures. I'm unstable on my internet. Um, what I was saying is uh, people search for this, like it's so
Mhm.
rare. It's Eagle Rare and different than the regular Buffalo Trace range, but it is the same mash bill as the Buffalo
Yep.
Trace, just 2 years older. Um,
Yep.
the Buffalo Trace is 8, this is 10. Um, obviously that maturation time makes a big difference. It,
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. The maturation time does make a difference, and it has that this signature. And now that I know what it is, I can pick it up. Eagle Rare always has just a hint of like Welch's grape juice to it on in the background for me, and that always comes through. And the big corn notes in there, of course, too.
mhm, yeah, it's good.
Mhm. Okay, number 3 for the reveal.
Excited for this one.
Cam's asking what the price of the Eagle Rare is. It's not
84
atrocious,
bucks.
honestly.
I think it was 80 bucks
Yeah.
last time we had it. 80, 84.
Yeah, that sounds about right. It's cheaper than most of the blends range, and still my preference when it comes down to it. Even at 45% alcohol versus the 50.5 or whatever on the blends gold.
Mhm.
Okay, what is number 3? This is the curveball that we tossed in here. Yeah, this is cool. This is actually my first. I probably tried a sample of it, but it's the first time I recall tasting it.
Yeah, I
And
forced you to drink this when you were on your lunch break once.
that's right. And I like their stuff from what I've tried. I think they're doing some really cool whiskey. Another Alberta producer that's making some really neat stuff and not necessarily doing the typical Canadian whiskey thing, which I totally appreciate as well. So this is
Yeah.
Grainhenge, Arrowwood. Grainhenge whiskey is the whiskey arm, I guess, of Troubled Monk Brewery, is the best way to do it. Troubled Monk has been a brewery for a long time. They started making gin after that when they got stills in, and now they are old enough to have whiskey, which is really, really cool. They are kind of, I guess the best way to put it, I think, is they're kind of going the two brewers route, where they're doing small batch, sort of one-off bottlings, which is really, really neat. They're buying at or bottling at typically a higher ABV. This is 46.6% alcohol. We have another one in the store that's at batch strength. That's a malt whiskey.
Mhm.
But this is rye. So this is 61% flaked rye, 31%, 39% malted rye, and Asian Virgin American oak for 3 years and 3 months, or 39 months, as they say on there. their lineup. Yeah. Kevin says very soft for a rye. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
beautiful.
yeah. Are you still getting that funkiness there, Kev? Funky on the nose. Still getting those bad jujubes.
Funky on the nose, but not funky on the palate, which is good.
Yeah, it's not the massive spicy rye. And
Yeah.
this I think happens more on the malted rye side of things as you get those more of those candied notes, and it tends to get a little bit more syrupy instead of spicy in style,
Yeah.
which I do not mind that at all. That's
No.
a really nicely put together bottle.
I
This is a
was
distillery. Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Harmony.
sorry, I was just going to say that I was lucky enough to try their newest spirit when I was in Banff. I don't know if
Hmm.
it's been released yet, um, but it's fantastic. And just
Cool.
having had the two that we have in store, trying the one that's coming down the line, like they're not just putting out whiskey because it's 3 years and a day, like let's just do it. They're
Yep.
really making something special, and they're really putting craft and care into their whiskeys, and I'm really excited about the future of Greenhenge in Alberta. Like they're doing
Yeah.
really good things. Yeah.
Yeah, same here. Super impressed with this bottle, but with how they're doing things. I love the small batch concept. Like it's got to be so difficult, and we've seen other distilleries do it, and it's understandable why, but to embrace the inconsistency of everything, and just be happy to not have or like head out of the gate with just a standard, this is our whiskey and this is what it's going to be like for the next 10
Yeah.
years. Um, Sort of embracing that experimental side of things and seeing what they can come up with. I think keeps things fun. Like that's what I've
Yeah.
loved about the two brewers idea is that small batch release. Like, yeah, you'll get an idea of what the two brewers DNA is over time,
Yeah.
which tends to be bananas, bananas,
Yep.
bananas, bananas. But you get to see what they can do when they're still having fun playing in the sandbox and instead of trying to be like, this is our standard release and we want it everywhere available and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So kudos to them.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's
So
very good.
$108 for that one. Yeah. We do still have bottles of it. I believe they are sold out through their website though.
They are. Yeah, we actually
Yeah.
got the last case and a half
Nice.
of their
Well, that was nice
whiskey.
of them.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, on to number 4. This is one I did a tasting note up for a while back.
Okay.
And it's a distillery that I tend to have an on again, off again relationship with, I guess. I'm not going to say love hate because I've never really hated them. So this is from Maker's Mark Distillery. And it is from their 2020, one of their 2023 batches of the Maker's Mark cast strength. So 55.5% alcohol. Over the last 15 years or so, we've after Maker's Mark spent about 40 years doing one SKU and one SKU only for North America. We've started to see a little bit of expansion in their lineup, all using the same mash bill, but they started with the Maker's 46. They do have a couple different releases in Japan, which I think are just extra aged versions of Maker's Mark, if I remember correctly. But this is their standard 70% corn, 16% soft red winter wheat, and 14% malted barley mash bill that they use for everything. We started seeing the 100 proof or the Maker's Mark 101 story essentially coming here. And now we've got some batches of cast strength coming in every once in a while too, which is really cool.
Yeah. It's it's interesting. I did the flight of all of
Mhm.
them, including like a private
Nice.
cast single barrel. And there is definitely a DNA to Maker's Mark, but it can be very
Totally.
different just on the alcohol, like adding water to each of these like a drop of water, every drop of water, pardon me, will change its profile, which
Yeah.
is it's very cool. Yeah.
No, I remember doing that at the distillery back in 2017, and like I'd already hit a few different distilleries that day because I was traveling with
Hmm.
Andrew. So it's you don't just do one thing, you do everything all at once. But getting to Maker's Mark and being like, well, let's try, like, kind of being like put off by it, where it's like, let's try 5 different versions of Maker's Mark with the same mash bill. And then sitting down and tasting through them, and it's like, wow, you're right. Like adding water to this whiskey specifically changes it vastly, and changes
Yeah,
what you get off it vastly.
absolutely. Yeah.
Kevin giving us a bit of background there, saying the trick to calling it red winter wheat makes it sound special, but apparently it's the most common wheat grown in the US. I kind of figured, and that doesn't surprise me. I mean, Maker's Mark is not a small concern, so I doubt they've cornered the market on soft red winter wheat uh, by any stretch of the imagination. Mm.
Yeah. This is just a very traditional,
Yeah,
easy drinking um bourbon. It's what I would expect a bourbon to taste like.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maker's Mark is the my most drunken bourbon experience that I ever had too, was years and
To
years and years
tell.
ago. Yeah. It's not that fun. I was drinking bourbon with a friend at his place and ended up essentially blacking out. And then Kate had to pick me up and drive me home, and stop at a few places along the way for me to get out of the car and throw up. Um,
Oh no.
but and that's when I knew she was going to be my wife. Uh,
That's right.
but yeah, but no, it's still a bourbon that I think I know it, and I'll go back to it every once in a while. And it's like, no, this is still really fun stuff. Like
Yeah.
it Maker's Mark somehow never gets boring, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. And there are enough expressions now on the market that you can dabble in. It's like, oh, I had enough of the regular. Well, I'll try the 46 for a while. I don't know what's
Yep.
different about it. Well, like the recipe is the same. It's the 46 has different wood staves in the barrel, but the recipe is
Yeah. Yeah, it is the same recipe again, and they are just playing with the French oak staves for the regular 46, and then the signature releases that you see, they're either adding different staves or different toast levels to the staves using French oak or American oak, or who knows, maybe they're using some other types of oak in there now too. Now, well, Harmony hopefully gets back to us. Let's go on to number 5. So this was one where I'm actually surprised at how it, in my opinion, doesn't show incredibly well in the lineup here. This is our Doc Swinson single cask. And Harmony, I'll try and get you where you're back there now.
we're on 5.
Yeah.
Cool.
So number 5 is our Doc Swinson's KWM cask that we just got in about just before Christmas there. And we do have a Doc Swinson's tasting coming up that virtually like this, that we are super excited for. And I think we'll, if everything goes well, we'll actually have two of the Doc Swinson's guys joining us for that virtual tasting at the warehouse. So hopefully they can give us a mini tour and walk around and show the different casks as we're tasting through stuff, because that was part of what romanced Harmony and I when we were down there. Plus copious amounts of whiskey. And
Yes.
we would have happily taken this whiskey if we were sober, but picking it when we were not sober made it a little bit precarious, because both her and I were like, is this actually going to be good when we actually taste it again in the store? And
Oh
then we
yeah.
tasted it and we were very, very happy.
I had like panic mode fear the night before it arrived in store. Like, was this a good barrel?
Yeah,
Did we do good, or did we just
yeah,
try too many other barrels that
yeah. Yeah, we were both very worried, like, what if this actually sucks? And we just picked a terrible one. Um, does have a bit of funk to it. It's not like overly expressive on the nose, but the palate is really coming through right now for me. Getting some nice sort of Earl Grey meets peppermint tea right now on the nose. And some great cinnamon notes coming through. So Doc Swinson's, most of what they've sourced has come from MGP distillery. Unlike most Doc Swinson's bottlings, this is not finished in a cask. It is just 5.5 years, 8 months, 5 years, 8 months old from its original cask. And we had 6 to select from, 3 rye and 3 bourbon, if I remember correctly, from the barrels that we got to choose from. And multiple barrels could have worked, but we were really happy with this one. And luckily, even slightly inebriated, we were right.
and it is the first single barrel exclusive to Canada, which is very
From
cool.
Doc Swinson's.
From Doc Swinson's, yeah.
Yeah.
They've bottled other single barrels and divided it between, you know,
Yeah, different places. We were actually, and this is all thanks to Evergreen Beverage, the importer, and Gene Vite, who works with Evergreen, in getting us lined up to go down there. We were one of the first people to from any liquor store to come down and visit their warehouse and stuff, which was really cool for them to show us around and let us do that. On to number 6. Oh, Kevin says before we go on to number 6, number 5 for the Doc Swinsons. It is a relatively high rye mash bill. It is not the highest rye mash bill from MGP, but it's their 75% corn, 21% rye, and 4% malted barley mash bill. Same mash bill that we have for our other single barrel bourbon from KSL on this one, but the KSL is a little bit younger. Okay, next up, number 6. I thought this was so early in the lineup. So this was one that we put in, even though it's sold out, just because Harmony and I always are looking for a reason to actually try one of these without having to purchase a bottle and stash it away. Essentially, this way we get to share it with everybody. This is Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. So this is from batch 8523 of Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. It is 11 years and 5 months old, which is really cool that it's at that age. Just about 7 months shy of what Elijah Craig used to be bottled at, which was 12 years old for the standard release. Now it's at a no age statement release, but usually on the older side from what I understand. And this barrel proof is 62.1% alcohol from Heaven Hill Distillery / their Bernheim Distillery in Kentucky. Still love the nose on this one. It is, I think I said it on the first time through, this is like the most bourbon-esque of the bourbon lineup so far for me. Still a delicious bourbon. I do wish I had more of that one. And I wish we had more to sell, but we only get about 6 bottles at a time, sadly. Okay, number 7. This was the one that had the. Oh, you're back with us, Harmony.
no.
Oh, okay. So number 7 is the one that we were talking a little bit about the about the
Oh,
the wood on it and how it seemed different. Uh, Kevin said that it was a little bit of a hickory note on there. Definitely sort of like this weird combination of savory and sweet at the same time, cask wise. And the reason it seemed a little bit different is because there is a different oak in this one. So this is Starlight Carl T. Huber's Cigar Ambrana bourbon. So finished in Brazilian Ambrana barrels. So using some Brazilian oak essentially. A slightly different genus than your standard American or French oak or Spanish oak for that matter, but shows in a little bit of a different way that sort of like not coconut driven, but like sweet and cigar like note definitely comes off on this one on a big way. So Starlight Distillery is in Indiana. However, they are not sourcing whiskey. They do distill two different mash bills themselves. And this is a blend of those two mash bills, a 3-grain mash bill, which is 60% corn, 20% rye, 20% malted barley, along with a 4-grain mash bill of 51% corn, 20% rye, 20% malted barley, and 9% wheat. So kind of doing their own thing, but doing some really cool things because of it. This is a super intriguing whiskey, and I love uh I just love how that Brazilian oak gives it a little bit of a different finish. Some people probably have a bit more experience with Brazilian oak than I do. This and a
we
cast sample that we sorry,
didn't we try a Brazilian oak at Doc's?
yes. Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we that's the only other one that I can think of that I've tasted, noticed and tasted. And that Doc Swinson's that was after we were too inebriated to try and then pick a barrel and then we tasted more after that. So
Yeah.
my recollection on that one is a little bit foggy, but I do recall this sort of like sweet, creamy toffee, but earthy tobacco note like this one has. So that maybe
Mhm.
that's the earmark to the cask type or the Brazilian oak itself. So Kevin Don says, one of the interesting things I've recently learned about Ambruana is that it's currently an endangered species. So we needed to ensure that it's farmed responsibly. No kidding. Hopefully there is a way to kind of do what the US has done with American oak and make it uh, a sustainable thing, because I think it's got, well, not just because of what it can do to bourbon and whiskey, but because of what we need for trees, especially in Brazil.
Yeah. The unfortunate thing is we just keep cutting them down to grow grain to feed cows because we all eat cows.
Mhm. Yeah.
And it, coming from Alberta, I'm sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I'm not happy we got to try this Starlight. I've heard very mixed reviews on this whiskey, but I really enjoy it. Um,
Yeah, I can see how it would be very, or it is very divisive, where it
yeah,
is definitely putting a different twist on it. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. Like cloves
yeah,
were mentioned, I believe, by Colton the first time, and it does have clove notes, but it's not like what I would expect for clove notes, in the same way where it's like overpowering. It's kind of in behind, hiding behind the cigar smoke and the cinnamon. Um, but just a really neat twist on things, in my opinion.
yeah, it's nice. And I was reading about Starlight too, that like they're a family-run farm for almost 200 years.
Yeah,
Um, and you can go there and pick fruit and pick pumpkins and drive
yeah.
go-karts around and like it's just like a fun place to go and hang out and drink
Hmm.
whiskey and they do gins and
Well,
brandies and sorts of
they have a
things.
winery too, so you could even
Yeah,
drink
they have a
wine.
winery
Yeah.
there. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay, last but not least, on to number 8. I totally forgot we had this in the lineup.
I did not. This is
Mhm.
if you think you know what it is, throw it in the chat.
Yeah, this that savory note, that potato leek soup, I think Kevin said, which I think is bang on.
Hmm.
Still there on this one, even into scallions and a bit of French onion soup. Green, yeah, big time green onion notes.
Has to
but
be
sweet at the same time. Yeah.
right.
Any guesses so far?
Yeah.
Has to be 60% at least. You're right there. 60% is actually conservative on this one, Colton.
Yeah, at 66.3% is the
Yep.
bottling on this one.
So this is our second not bourbon of the night. The first one was the Grain Henge rye that we tried. This one, however, is still American. This is a Texas single malt whiskey. And let's share my screen here. This was something that Harmony was savvy and stashed away so that we could put it in a future tasting. This sold out before it even hit the shelves, essentially. But
Yeah.
Harmony was able to save a bottle for us. From 2017, this is Balcones Distillery, and it's an independent bottling about Balcones, which is the only way I've tasted Balcones for the most part for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is single malt whiskey, peated or single cask of Balcones. And
Does
I kind of get the peat, but it's not something I jumped out on at me.
No, I get more of that French oak spices and
Totally.
nuttiness than I get peat.
Agreed.
Yeah.
66.3% alcohol, which I wouldn't have guessed. Like it's big, but it's Balcones seems to generally work well in the mid to high 60s ABV wise, which is really cool. Yeah, just a gorgeous whiskey, 4 years old in a new French oak barrel. And if you don't like it, it's okay because we can't get more.
Yeah. Colton asked what the price was on that, and I don't remember. Oh,
Yeah, I think it would have been the most expensive in this lineup, easily. I think it might have been north of $200, but I could be wrong.
yeah, I feel like it's on whiskey base for I don't know, anywhere from 86 euros to 180. So
Yeah.
there you go.
This is a distillery that I've heard about for more than a decade. I've only tried a handful of bottlings from. Most of them again have been independent bottlings, but they do a variety of different styles. They do single malt, they do bourbon, they do 100% blue corn whiskey, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
They do a smoked corn whiskey, is it as well?
Yes, they have.
Brimstone?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So they've never been afraid of experimentation. They've definitely, the reason I heard about it the first time was because of the controversy they went through with their previous owner slash master distiller and him being either ousted or kicked out or fired for good cause, depending on who you talk to. He's off doing his own thing now at another distillery, and hopefully we'll see some more stuff from him in the future. But Balcones just has kept on keeping on, which is pretty cool. We had a fantastic Scotch Malt Whiskey Society from these guys, bottling from these guys. That was called, was it At Home on the Range? That was like 64% alcohol.
Oh, the outturn like a year ago.
Yeah, and it was
Yeah.
stunning whiskey.
Yeah.
But yeah, they just, whatever they do, they seem to make some pretty cool stuff. Hmm. So unfortunately, I did not have time to do a poll up last thing. So if you guys want to say what your two favorites are in the chat, fire away. Harmony, are you able to figure out your favorite two?
Well, with my limited
Uh-oh. Well, Harmony's kind of cut off there again.
senses, and I mean,
Yeah. Go ahead now.
I was
Oh,
gonna
we
say
got
with
you.
my limited internet and senses, yeah,
Mhm.
I liked the Great Change in the Doc Swensons.
Cool.
Yeah, I really liked them, and actually the Starlight really surprised me.
Yeah. Yeah, the Starlight's pretty cool. I am going to say uh Elijah Craig Barrel Proof
Huh?
and the I'm not going to pick our doc. I honestly think it shows better on its own than in this lineup. But I do really, really enjoy it. Boy, this is a toughie. I'm actually going to say the Grain Henge and then followed by the Makers. I really like that Grain Henge. I think it's really cool stuff.
Yeah, yeah. The number one was still really good. I swear I
Hmm.
drank quite a bit of that Amador.
Yep.
But I really like it, and
Same.
yeah, I think a lot of the whiskeys in this lineup were really good. Yeah,
Yeah, agreed. No, I was super happy with the lineup overall. I personally feel the Amador doesn't show as good as it does on its own, kind of like the Docks. Although it still shows decently. Colton says number 3 right now tastes like candy.
I
That
like
makes sense.
candy.
Yep.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, I really like that Grain Henge. Just
Mhm.
neat stuff.
Support local. Buy Alberta.
Yeah. Kevin, the Archives Balcones is finished. We're not seeing any more of it, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it was
Although
finished like
we,
6 months ago
yeah,
almost. Yeah.
this is a bit of a spoiler, and who knows what we'll end up putting it in, but Harmony does have a second different Archives Balcones that may get into a lineup in the future somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I might.
Mhm.
Maybe. Maybe not.
So Jane's iPad is telling us number 2 and number 6 are her favorites.
Whoa. Yeah, the Elijah Craig keeps creeping up in the votes there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I love the fact that we can pour stuff that's sold out and we don't have any more bottles of it. It's kind of sad that we
Oh,
don't have any more to sell though. Or any
yeah,
for us to buy. Yeah,
yeah. It's bittersweet. Um, it's unfortunate when we get such few bottles, but it's nice when we can at least squirrel away one to share with friends.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I think Harmony probably needs to get some sleep.
I have to
I need to log off
order
and
day tomorrow morning. Yay.
that's right. I gotta go help put the kids to bed now. So I have to log off as well. Thank you all for joining us. And we truly appreciate you doing this with us, or at least enabling us in doing this, which is why we do it. Is we love doing these blind tastings with you. Take a look at our Doc Swinson's tasting. I think that is on February 8th. Should be a ton of fun as well if you're looking for another virtual. And hopefully we do get the guys from Docs on there so we can see the inside of their warehouse and their skunk works operation that they have going on there, because it is really neat. Take care,
Yeah.
everybody.
Good night, everyone.